Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing great. I hope no one is too tired after lunch. And yeah, second thing, sorry for the delay. We had to win a little coffee revolution out there before we have been able to start. Nevertheless, let's dive in. First question to Sky next to me, because I mean, I'm coming from a Web2 company, or I'm working at a Web2 company, and we want to enter into Web3. And I know because I researched a little bit about Sandbox. Sandbox started actually as a Web2 company. Right. Is that right? And can you tell us, the audience, a bit more about the history of Sandbox? Because I think everyone knows Sandbox as a Metaverse, but most people don't know how old Sandbox already is and how it started. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think it would be like the awesome topic that we can like get understanding more like how we building and Web 2, right, and transition to the Web 3. So absolutely, the Sandbox, we are like the virtual world, and some of them we call like a gaming, right, gamify experience, which we are building on the open Metaverse. And the important is about like we highlight, allow people to play and create, and they can build the experience as well. So it's time come at the very beginning, we did not like develop in the Web3 or blockchain. We have been start with like Web2 company is about like 8 to 10 years ago at the Sandbox. But one thing that we try to build, we try to give like the power of the creator and the player, right, to be the same person. So player can be a creator as well in the integrated tool that they can build in the Sandbox. And at the same time, we just starting about how we can like be more like revolution and create the value to the creator by we can give them more reward, and we can give them not only like the social fame, but we can like return in the revenue. So it's how come we can like apply and adopt the blockchain, right? That can storing the value to the creator, and then they can sell their asset, and it can be like bring the culture. So this is how come from the Web2 gaming into like Web3, and our mission to drive like more open Metaverse to empower the player to be a creator as well. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Sky. That's really interesting. Irene, we talked already before a little bit. We almost have nothing to talk anymore now, right? We talked so much. No, that's not true. Yeah, I've been just 2 weeks ago to the Web3 festival in the Philippines, and I was really like excited to see the hype in the Philippines around Web3 gaming. So can you explain us here in Thailand a little bit what's happening in the Philippines, in Manila, and also a little bit maybe the history of YGG and how it started?
Sure, thank you so much. So how many of you guys were in Philippines in the Web3 festival? You're missing out. I'm creating a FOMO here. So we just did a Web3 festival a couple of weeks ago in Manila, and it's hosted by YGG with Blockchain Space, who's here as well. And basically, we were quite surprised, to be honest, that we're the bear market, but the enthusiasm that's there, especially now that we mentioned about creators, a lot of creators were there, a lot of players, people who genuinely love the games in the Web3 space, and people who would like to create more contents in it, they were all there trying to figure out what is it more that they can create and contribute to the space. So that was what Web3 Festival was about, bringing together everyone. And I think Philippines being a friendly place, it somehow helps, right? Like as Southeast Asia. Now coming to YGG, YGG is our parent DAO, and I'm from YGG Southeast Asia, which is the sub-DAO of YGG that focus in Southeast Asia. So as a lot of people know, the guild will be basically scholarship models, but I was just sharing earlier that scholarship model is an onboarding tool for people to come into guilds. But guild concept itself, it started off from the medieval age, so it's not something that's new. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, I'm not that smart, right? But a guild system is a societal system where people get together, and the communities are divided into, at that time, there were people who were good with woods, there are people who are good with steel, and they perfect it within that sub-communities. And so bringing to the modern society, before Web3 started, in gaming, if you guys play games, you'd be very familiar that in games there are also guilds, right? Where like-minded people get together and they perfect their craft. That's why in gaming there are a lot of, we're waiting for something called as crafting. within games, so that within the game there are guilds. Now, for us, what we do in YGGC is, yes, we use games, and today, if we look at the crypto communities, it's not huge. We have a lot of homework to do to introduce more about crypto, about blockchain to more people out there. So YGGC, what we do is we use games as a friendly way to introduce people and onboard people into this space, because the moment they are in, it's gamifications, right? They come in, they play the games, but what do they have to do? They have to create the wallets. They earn their first crypto tokens. They have to figure out what to do with it. So there are a lot of learnings in the process without them knowing. The moment they are in, they would be able to see what opportunities can I get out of here. Because we are at the early days. 5 years down the line, there will be jobs in this space that today I don't have a name of. And for us, YGGC, we want to be the first one to introduce them to it. Because all of us here remember our first email address. All of us here remember our first bank account, right? So we hope that we would be the one who introduce it to the mass and let them remember us. And that's our contribution to the ecosystem, really.
Yeah, thanks so much, Irene. Yeah, that always reminds me when I meet people who still have AOL email addresses or something like that. That's funny. Okay, thanks so much. Coming back to you, Sky. Talking about Sandbox, I mean, I'm personally a Sandbox land owner myself, and I stake Sandbox, Sand, and to get rewards, etc. So, want to understand a little bit more about your roadmap and also like the business ideas and what kind of stakeholders you would get together, because in the past you worked globally with a lot of famous artists, right? That was the thing you did. But what's the plan in the future? What kind of brands you want to get in? How you want to incentivize people to play games there and build games as well? Yeah.
Okay, I think when we talk about like the gaming, right, everyone would be like expect about like the fresh content, the game for fun, and the way that we can hang out with friends, right? So this is the same concept with the Sandbox, that we try to build a culture. We try to build like the inclusive and diverse content that can engaging more with the player. And not only the player, one thing that in our ecosystem, I always talk about the creator. Because when we have to develop the product, we have to rely on the pace of the development. And you have seen a lot of games that we play when we was kid is die, right? Some project close because of they don't have the development team. Some of them don't have like enough creative team to develop and build up the new content to attract more people. So that's why the second we talk about a creator who that we can like give them reward and be a part of building the metaverse or game together with us. And lastly is about when we have like open metaverse or the concept of the true digital ownership. So it can be turned out and become like more play off to the investor as well, as it can be like the one storing the value to them, right? In the past when we own some in-game item, or some of them kind of like we already invest in the item that we want to use, right? It cannot transfer to other platform, right? But when we work with a blockchain, we find out the solution that can help the player can like use their in-game asset to another platform as well. And also this can build up more like the interoperability that we might have like more synergy with other platform to drive out more like the mass adoption of the player. And one more thing about the roadmap, we also know, like Eileen already mentioned about the adoption of the crypto market, right? It's so difficult, I have to say. It requires us to sign a lot of like transaction when we come to the crypto wallet. and it requires us to know a lot of like technical term, right? And we don't understand. So that's why we try to keep momentum of the player to be more like a contributor to other community, right? To understand. So that's why we want to drive more the mass adoption, not only for the game industry themselves, as we have like more than 400 brands right now from fashion, from entertainment, and also from banking and finance. So the end of the roadmap, absolutely, we want to have like the most fun game and the most like diverse content that we can play together. And absolutely, it should be have like the content that can access to anywhere and also any device. And also it should be like turned into the investor who already like become like the one who come first, how they can like monetize and be benefit for like the open metaverse themselves. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Sky. Yeah, back to Irene. When we talked before, you told me you're coming actually from the Web2 gaming, and we joked a little bit about that Web2, Web3 thing, kind of new and even weird, and we said in future no one will make that separation anymore, and we talk about gaming, and that's it, right? But anyway, from you saw what happened the last 1 or 2 years with Web3 gaming. You saw the hype, but now also it got a bit quiet, like you hear critical voice even. What would you suggest, or from your experience working in Web2 and gaming, what would you recommend like GameFi developers or Web3 games? What should they change? What can they do? What can they learn?
All right, so thanks for that question. I think that's very relevant. For the past 1 year, a bit of background about myself. I'm a venture capital that invested in gaming for more than almost a decade, I think. For too long, right? Because we have fun over there. And what attracts me to the gaming industry is the grit and tenacity of the people that stays within the game industry in Web2. It takes a lot for them to stay there because they have to go against their parents, they have to go against their teachers, the society, because people always say that if you are in gaming, you're doomed, right? And so a lot of people in the Web2 space, they went through that uphill battle of staying in the gaming world. So when Web3 comes in, well, clearly I'm in Web3 now, so people felt that I was a traitor somehow early last year and didn't even invite me to a lot of game gathering, right? So I felt pretty sad. But even that, we try to go and share with them what is actually Web3. We are at the beginning of intersections of 10 odd years ago, where there was a phenomenon called as free to play. We all play games and it's free to play, right? But today, who talk about free to play? Nobody say that, oh, it's a free to play games. It's just a games. But at that time, there were a lot of shift within the game developers as well, because this is something new. It's a change of the business model. Because in the past, you buy one game, and that's the revenues for the game developers. With free-to-play, it's a change of the business model. We are here at another intersections of having GameFi or play-to-earn or play-to-own or whatever we want to call it. In the end of the day, it's a games, right? So I see that in the future, we'll just be calling this as a games, and there's no differences between the two. Now, what needs to happen is the integration between Web2 and Web3 players. Web2 players, I've seen that a lot of Web2 games are starting to be open, because guys, they are the best game economists. I'm not talking about Web3 tokenomics. I'm talking about game economics in-game. They have known it for ages. It's at the back of their hands. What they lack is the layer of the Web3 tokenomics. So the combination of these two, I think, would make a huge impact and change in this space. We haven't seen that. We're starting to see that a little bit moving towards there, and I'm very excited for it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much. Yeah, Sky, I'm very interested in Metaverse, and as I said before, Sandbox landowner and following Sandbox for a while. And also other Metaverse projects, and I was reading recently an article with like the catchy headline, it's quite lonely in the Metaverse, right? So, I mean, you worked with a lot of artists, as we said before, you want to get a lot of fashion brands in, but how do you think, and I mean, you answered it a bit already before, but if you can go more into how you want to get the mainstream, how you want to get the masses into the metaverse, because it's at the end a chicken and egg thing, right? So you have to get the brands in or the companies first, but then they also want an audience, right? Otherwise, it's not exciting.
Okay. Thanks for the question. Yeah, it's quite tough. I believe many of you here who work in the Web3 want to make it like not only the blockchain, but also the NFT itself to be like mainstream. But we see a huge gap in Web2 and also Web3. But what we have seen so far from we have been working with the brand and also a player and a creator. We will see more how like the Web3 not only gaming themselves, but it can potential extend to the metaverse that we can have more like immersive experience, right? To have more like impact on the consumer confidence, and also we will have to we will see more like how the open metaverse can bring more like interoperability and also the digital ownership. It means when we talk about the mass adoption or mainstream, it doesn't limit to just only the gaming industry itself, but it can turn to like the non-crypto native that come to the game with a fashion that we just launched together. For example, we have opened Gucci World in the metaverse, right? So it can see like how fans that love the Gucci so can come, so can engage as well. This is how we can interact more with industry and drive more the mainstream adoption for the Web3. And besides that, we try to make sure that each content that deliver more like the new culture, the new lifestyle. So you can see like we work with a lot of celebrity. Also the single, we have like a Snoop Dogg, right? And also even like a Paris Hilton. So the main one is we can like show people how you can use your traditional business, right? And create the new form of like entertaining content through like it can be the GameFi experience, and it can be like the avatar that you can love and you can pair together. So this is how we try to like encourage the industry to pay and pack together and drive out more the people to be like understand more of Web3 and how we can like find out what best they can like fit with the industry. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much. My question before to you was what Web3 gaming or GameFi can learn from Web2, but maybe turning it around, because I don't think there's any gaming company in the world who not thought, how can we not miss the train in future? How can we integrate blockchain? How can we integrate Web3 tools into Web2 gaming? I mean, what kind of future see you there, and what kind of developments, and what can they add on, or what will they add on first? Like,
for me, I feel Web 2 and Web 3, there will be, okay, let me just ask a question here. How many of us can live without internet for more than 10 days?
5 seconds.
The moment we wake up, the first thing that we look at is panic mode. Where's my phone, right? We cannot live without internet today. We try, right? But then after, if some of you goes to meditation for 10 days and you have to put your phone away, 10 days you put your phone away. But the moment you're out, the first thing you look for is not your purse. It's not your bag, it's your phone. Why? Because of the power of the internet. Going forward, Web3, whatever form or shape that it will develop into, that will be integrated to every fabric of our life. There is something called as O2O, online to offline, right? On internet phrase. In the metaverse, there will be offline to online to metaverse, OM, right? OOM. That will be developed. And that's why the key is how do we simplify this so that a lot more people could benefit from it? Because right now we look at it like, oh yeah, games is the big thing. But if we look at it, all of us here, regardless of age, regardless of who we are, we all, whether we admit or not, we all love playing games, right? I always say that playing games is a birthright of every single human being. Even my parents who banned me from playing games are now playing Candy Crush, right? And so games is just the very beginning. It's just reminding everyone, let's play games. But as we onboard more people to come in, as there are more applications from the Web2 companies to use blockchain technology to revolutionize their business, new opportunities will come in, just like how the internet has revolutionized a lot of industry through something we today know as e-commerce, right? That's something that we didn't know before. So there will be a lot of new jobs, a lot of new terms that will be developed here. So it's good that this industry is moving at a phenomenal space, and it's simply because everybody is eager to learn. And what's most important is I think the current state of the world as it is today might not be as efficient as we want to. So if you want me to paint a picture of how Web3 or Metaverse could potentially become, please do watch Ready Player One. It's a movie that's been out for a couple of years already. And that's where the hardware and the software is available for humans to experience the full immersive experience. But one thing that I'd like to remind everyone is that the moment they take off the goggles, the reality is not that beautiful. So for me, when I look at that movie, it's a reminder for myself that I don't want the real world to be the way it was depicted in the movie. But it's up to every single one of us here to take part in these revolutions, to move into or to integrate Web3 into our lives in a sustainable manner without ruining our planet. How do we do that? That's something that collective minds could solve. So please do watch Ready Player One if you want to see what potentially the future could be. And if we don't like to see what's there without the goggles, let's do something about it together.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. True. And just to add on a couple of things, because I got introduced as a panelist and moderator, so I have to say a couple of things as well, I guess. No, I mean, I'm the blockchain person in a Web2 in a gaming company. So, for my colleagues in the company, it's not easy to get a head around about many different things. So I had to look really like for use cases, which are easy to explain. And just like two problems I found in gaming in the past, like all around trust. We all say that always blockchain is around trust, like it's the revolution of trust. And I found really like examples, like real world examples where that can be solved. Yeah? I mean, Ampverse, we also like started a guild coming from traditional gaming, from esports into Web3, and from like having a community separated from the team. We have it now in a complete guild. Yeah. And we're hosting now tournaments on community gaming, for example. I'm sure Irene knows community gaming, and we are super happy because in the past in gaming it happened that players won a tournament, but it didn't get paid out. And how community gaming works, you put your money, if you want to host a tournament, you put the money first, it's in a smart contract, and when people win the tournament, it gets automatically paid out. Yeah. I mean, another problem we talk a lot about NFTs, but in gaming, like every gamer knows skins, for example, or in-game items. It's not so far away what been NFTs in Web3 gaming, at least in the gaming part. Yeah? And a lot of fraud happened there in the past because you cannot really prove is it an original game item, is it faked, is it not? And yeah, blockchain can help to really prove, or NFTs can help to prove the originality of the NFT and where it's coming from, the ownership and the history. So yeah, I think there's a lot to integrate in Web2 and a lot to improve in that direction. Thanks so much.
Yeah, if I can add one more thing is that fashion, right? Because you touch about fashion of Web2 brands. In games, before even the advent of blockchain tech or GameFi, right? A pair of jeans from a very famous brand, right, that all of us would definitely have, a sports brand, it's actually selling very well in the game as a skin. The reason is because a lot of the communities might not be able to afford a real pair of jeans or a real pair of shoes that they can wear in the real world, but in the gaming space, they could. So the sales is actually pretty high, and that happens in Web 2. With Web 3, what's perfect with the blockchain technology is the proof of ownership, because now you can take off that shoes out of the game and just sell the shoes instead of selling your entire account. Right? If you play Pokemon, back in the days, one Pokemon account, if you have rare Pokemons, you could sell it for 20, 30K, right, US dollars per account, but you have to sell everything. But right now, you can just take one Pikachu out and sell it with the blockchain technology. So there are a lot of multitudes of applications from the Web2 space that are actually solvable by using blockchain technology. So at the bear market, I'm very excited because we're seeing a lot of builders, real builders, and really would love to collaborate with anyone who'd like to get into that space, because we are guilds, but for us, we would like to collaborate with anyone who can help us to onboard the Web2 users or the current mass into the crypto space. Yeah, thank you. Sorry for taking your time.
Absolutely, yes. Thanks for that. And I mean, quick. Before I come to the next question, like talking a little bit more about Ampverse, a Web2 company, right? Like, I mean, we have 3 pillars mainly, like gaming. We went into the guild business, to say, so like Web3 Gaming, yeah. We have a talent pillar, like kind of influencers, so we're looking more for Web3 talents, Metaverse talents, right? But in e-commerce, so we're talking already, and that's why I'm mentioning that, like we're talking instead of D2C, already about direct to avatar, right? Like how can we address a wallet avatar instead of, like an email address or the data collected in Web2. So there will be a shift, definitely, and also, people want to present them in the digital world even more as they did it in the past. And it's actually also a good point to the question I wanted to ask Sky. I mean, at the end, like, I mean, a lot of Web3 companies are well funded. They can now build in the bear market and have like an extended roadmap. But how people will monetize in future in the sandbox? I mean, there are different stakeholders. There are landowners, for example. There are game builders. There are the players. There are investors, there are the brands coming in. So how can everyone monetize in the sandbox?
Sure. So I think it's about like when we talk about the ecosystem and also how we can monetize our like investment. I have to say investment, right? So the first one is when we talk about like land, but the landowner, they already become like owner of their metaverse. You can do anything. But what happened in the sandbox is they have like some landowner who already have their creative and content that they can build up in the metaverse, and then it can turn the experience into like either the in real life experience with the e-ticket that we can sell together in the NFT. And the second part is I found out like some landowner that they can allow people to lend out their space as well. That can be like the host of the event. So next time we maybe like meet in person here today, but we can do like in the metaverse as well. Yeah. So this is a how come of the landowner also like who become like owner of the metaverse themselves. And the second part that we try to die the revenue is the revenue of the creator. They can get some reward from their contribution. So we have been so far working with more than 50 studio around the world. Even like in Thailand, we have like official studio, 5 studio that are already engaged with the brand, right? So they can make like that job, the new create of like the voxel artist, and they can be like the game designer with the no code platform. So I met the team. They have like, okay, I want to like become more artists, but it's not just be like the architecture in the past. It's not just only like playing game. They can turn themselves to be like the creator in the metaverse, right? And this is a how come that we can like build more a certain revenue, not only for ourselves, but for also both investor, the creator, or even the player as well sometimes. So we give them the rewards of the engagement as the contribution to them to enter and interact with the brand as well. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much. Looking at the time, maybe the last question then for Irene. I mean, I know YGG started very early, like at the beginning, or almost created the hype around like Web3 and blockchain gaming and GameFi. So I would trust you asking you for the next trend. So what do you think? Like, because everyone here is interested what's happening next, right? So what do you think? What's on the horizon? What's happening next?
Wow, I'm feeling the pressure. Look, if I say what the next trend is going to be, then I'll be the owner of crystal ball, and I'll be honest that I don't own a crystal ball. But what I could say is the next phase, right now we're at a phase where there are a lot of institutional investors that are here. There are a lot of Web2 companies that are now starting to be more curious about Web3, and they are here. They are in Sandbox, right? And so it's 1 feet in. You just need to step in another way. So the way I see it is the next trend, everyone will be looking into how to resolve the biggest problems with crypto. Wallet. A lot of us knows how painful it was to create our first wallet, right? Crypto wallet. And then second would be wrapping your minds around this new space. Someone needs
Get kicked
to
out.
simplify it. So simplifications of onboarding to facilitate for mass adoptions. I wouldn't say mass adoptions will happen very soon, but the stairways towards that and all the solutions that go towards that directions will happen.
Okay, thanks so much. We've been almost on time. Thanks so much. And yeah, thanks for listening to us.